What's good, fight fans? It's I9s. Welcome back to the channel. Happy New Year to you all. I'm so happy that we have fights this weekend. We're back. We finally get to break down some cards, and I got a new little, slightly changed up the look for season 2 of the channel. We're starting off the new year, new look, new channel vibes, new everything. And also, the WeaselMMA commented on my video and wow, man, said that he liked the content, said that he was subscribing. Shout out to the WeaselMMA. 2 channels got me into making videos. The MMA Guru and WeaselMMA. And I know it's funny because they're like the complete opposite creators, but it's true. Those are the 2 people that inspired me, the 2 people that I watched the most, the 2 people that I currently watch the most. So it had me buzzing all week after I saw this. Thank you so much. It inspired me a lot to really up the content. But let's get straight into the card now. Josh Van taking on Felipe Bunes in the flyweight division. Honestly, Josh Van is one of my favorite prospects, especially in flyweight, but in general, he's one of my favorite prospects that has come out of the last few years. Felipe Bunes, relatively untested, but if I'm being completely honest, his record is deceiving because he has the type of style that can do a lot of damage to Josh Van. If you guys watched his last fight, his first round, I believe it was looking grim for him. He came back and put pressure on and ended up winning a decision by just, really staying in the pocket and using boxing, which he needs to do in this fight. But again, Dana White says it all the time. It's true. Styles make matchups. Be careful with this fight. I'm going to go Josh Van, though. Next up the card, lightweight division, we've got Nikolas Motta taking on Tom Nolan, undefeated Australian. I'm going to take Tom Nolan. If you go watch this dude's highlights, something about the way he's built, he's like a modified Dan Hooker. He's like more built to use those knees and throw them up the center. It kind of just comes, it flows in his combinations as if he's boxing and he's using his hands, if you get what I'm saying. It's just like an extension. It's like a third hand. It's kind of crazy. A third and a fourth. Watch for those knees. I feel like he's going to come in there, really just keep up with the pressure, throw wild hooks and overhands, which he needs to be careful about, and knees up the center. I think he's going to knock out Nikolas Motta in the first round. Moving on up the card, Westin taking on Silva. We got a featherweight bout. This is another mismatch in my opinion. I think these last 2 fights, you can comfortably prop for an early knockout, and it's probably going to hit. Silva, if you go watch some tape on this guy, he's a clean striker, and he goes for some dynamic shit, like flying knees. He'll throw wheel kicks, he'll throw spinny shit, and he's fast. He has good hands. He knows how to really put it on you when he senses a finish. Westin Wilson, the only thing I've seen from him in the UFC is him getting smoked by Joe Anderson Brito, who in and of himself is a great prospect, don't get me wrong, but that's all I remember seeing of him in the UFC so far. I could double check, but honestly, it doesn't change my opinion. I've got Silva by an early knockout. Moving on up the card into the bantamweight division, Farid Basharat taking on Taylor Lapilus. I was a little bit higher on Taylor Lapilus until I saw his last fight with Callan Loughran, and I did pick Callan. He made it a closer fight than it should have been. Taylor looked crisp on the feet with the counter-striking, but he does not look like Farid Basharat. There's a stark night and day contrast between how Farid strikes and moves and operates. He just moves in the cage like he has a game plan, and he's going in there to assassinate you, get a quick choke, or maybe knock you out on the feet. And honestly, I feel like he's going to come in here. Maybe Taylor can make it a closer fight. Maybe he can even take the dub, but I feel like it's pretty safe to wager on Farid Basharat getting a finish here. I might even pick him for a submission. Moving on into the bantamweight division, we got Marcus McGhee taking on Gaston Bolanos. So we've got Marcus McGhee, who is probably the best bantamweight prospect, in my opinion, outside of the rankings now, because all of the other ones have now moved into the rankings, which is pretty cool. The bantamweight division, surprisingly, out of all of them, it moves pretty quickly with its prospects. Marcus McGhee, Kyler Phillips are the 2 people outside of the rankings that I would look out for, but I think Kyler is in them now. So, if not for his inactivity. Marcus McGhee, crazy powerful, wicked explosive, strong leg kicks. Gaston Bolanos, all he has is striking. So, this could be a really fun technical fight on the feet. Marcus can mix it up. He has more tools. I have to pick Marcus McGhee. Moving on up the card, Matthew Semelsberger taking on Preston Parsons in the welterweight division. Preston Parsons has impressed me. He has heart, he has great grappling, he has cardio. I don't think he has the hands that Matthew Semelsberger has. I don't think he has the power. Matthew, you could tell he just has heavy punches. He puts most people that he fights down, if not all of them. I think he has one of the highest knockdown rates in the sport, if I'm not mistaken. I think this is going to be a really tough matchup for Preston Parsons, especially because of the reach. I would trust Matthew Semelsberger to go out there and kind of just steamroll him. in the boxing, using his leg kicks to set up the hands. I'm going to trust Matthew Semelsberger by a finish. Moving on up the card, Andrei Arlovski, heavyweight veteran, taking on Waldo Cortes-Acosta. This is tricky because Arlovski finds a way to figure out these, up-and-coming prospects at heavyweight, because sometimes they're really just not that great. It's really like hit or miss with heavyweight. It's weird. But he got finished by Dontel Mays, and that makes it really hard for me to want to trust you against somebody that's 10-1. So he's really only fucked up one time. Waldo really needs to stick that jab in Arlovski's face, and I think try to remind Arlovski that he's old and he's taken damage and he's weathered. Put it on him and go for an early finish. I have a bad feeling that it's going to be like a boring decision fight. I hope Waldo can do more than that. I guess we'll just have to see, but I'm a wedge Waldo. Moving on up the card, Hawes taking on Bruno Ferreira in the middleweight division. This is a really tough fight to call. I trusted Hawes to beat Ikram. It's one of the worst calls I've made. Bruno Ferreira, I knew he was going to get smoked by Nursultan Ruzaboev. That dude is a freak of nature. He's gigantic. It's not exactly like the fairest showing. His debut was against a freak of nature. Also a Dagestani, I believe, or like a Russian. Somebody from that part of the world. Hawes, though, he has the right type of fight style to win this fight. He just doesn't have the chin. I'm going to hedge him for my last time. I swear to God, I'm going to hedge him for my last time, bro. Please get it done, Hawes. I think you have the style. I think you can find a knockout or make it a close fight, but still win the decision. Up into the bantamweight division now on the main card, we have Ricky Simón taking on Mario Bautista. My favorite fight on the card, personally. There's no way for this fight not to be a banger. I feel like with the way their styles are going to match up. We've got a grapple-heavy, kind of like brute fighter in Ricky Simón taking on a slick counter-striker with slick grappling in Mario Bautista. Usually I would side with Ricky Simón, but I really think that Song Yadong fight is going to do something to him mentally. He knows now that he really isn't up there with the best in the world. He has to really kind of like fine-tune some of his skills and add on to his game. I think Mario Bautista is coming into his own. There's a good chance this might be his breakout year, I feel like. When you look at a lot of fighters that are going to be debuting these first couple of months, Mario has put in a lot of work in the last 2 years to make it so he could like propel this year. I'm going to go with Mario Bautista by a submission. Moving on up the card, Jim Miller taking on Gabriel Benitez. This is a hard fight to pick because they're both older, but Gabriel's less weathered. Jim Miller has got better wins. He's done a lot more in the sport. He's fought way more in the UFC. I want to trust Jim Miller. It's hard because he's getting older. Both of them didn't look too great in their last fights, even though they're both coming off of wins. I'm going to trust Jim Miller here. I hope he doesn't make me regret it. Gabriel Benitez could easily get this done with like a sneaky knee up the middle or just doing something that catches Jim Miller. But I'm gonna side with Jim Miller. I think he could use his grappling well, mix it up, find his hooks and whatnot on the feet, maybe even some overhands by using his grappling to set it up. I think it's going to be kind of like a gritty war type of fight, but Jim Miller can get it done via decision. And then we have the co-main event of the night, Matheus Nicolau taking on Manel Kape. One of the best flyweight fights we're going to have of the year, I feel like. Not in terms of like how it's going to play out. It could end up being a really boring fight, if I'm being honest, just because the way their styles are. They're both kind of like counter strikers that want to wait for you to make a move before they capitalize. So it could be like a chess match on the feet until somebody lands, or it'll just stay like that to a boring decision. What I'm saying though is I think it's like one of the better matchups that flyweight can have. These are two prospects that, either one of them could reasonably make it to the belt if they just fine-tune some shit and stay a little bit more active. I'm going to trust Manel Kape to get this one done. I think he can knock out Matheus Nicolau, especially after watching Matheus get smoked by Brandon Royval, which I picked, by the way. Shout out to me. But anyways, I think Manel Kape, it's pretty cut and clear. He's just a little bit better of a fighter. When you watch him on the feet, he just looks crisper. He looks slicker. He looks like he can find his knockout shots more often than not. Matheus Nicolau, I think his best bet would be to try to mix in some grappling, offensive grappling, like just really use pressure, get him up against the cage, get his back to the wall, try to find, just do something to make him uncomfortable, pull him out of that striking rhythm that he's going to try to find early on, and that's the best bet for Matheus Nicolau and for his fans, whoever's going to be hedging him. If you are going to side with Matheus Nicolau on the betting, I would probably go by it going to the distance. If it's Manel Kape, I would go under the distance by a finish. Moving on up the card, we've got the main event, a rematch of, honestly, what I had as meme of the year. Johnny Walker versus Magomed Ankalaev 2. Doctor stoppage, of course, I'm sure you guys all remember. He asked Johnny Walker where he was. Johnny said he's in a desert. The doctor was like, oh hell no. And then he pulled that shit off. Goofy as hell. I really wanted Johnny Walker to win. I actually put money on it. And, of course, my bet got pulled back. I can't do it again this time, man. I have a weird feeling that Ankalaev is going to come back in this and now somehow smoke him in, like, the first round. I swear he has, like, at least 2 fights now besides the Johnny Walker one where the first fight ends weird, then there's a rematch, and then in the rematch he smokes him, even though the first fight looked a little bit more competitive. I could see that being the case here, where he just like really uses his grappling early on, tries to find a submission like he was sort of doing in the first fight before the illegal knee. Or maybe he's just going to smoke him on the feet. I don't know. I want Johnny Walker to win. I just really don't want to start the year with a main event loss. I didn't do that last year. I picked Sean Strickland to beat Imavov. I'm going to have to hedge Ankalaev, but nobody on the planet probably wants to see Johnny Walker just like time a flying knee and chin this dude more than me. You know, Johnny Walker for champ or to fight for it, that would be awesome, honestly. I couldn't ask for anything better. If you're going to be propping Johnny Walker, obviously you got to prop it by a knockout. I don't think he's not going to come out here and win a technical fight. If you're propping Ank, I would go for a sub or to go the distance. Follow me on TikTok if you want to just hear what my betting props are or what the odds are, because I break down every fight that's announced and I have done it all week. Subscribe to the channel if you like the content. We're starting off a new year and I'm just really happy to get this channel going. So thank you all for supporting me, and I'll catch y'all.